so as you can see, we have the primer all on. As I say, it's just standard Tamiya XF19. I find it just works the best, easiest, any problems you can take care of. And I have to say, looking around it, I know we did a lot of part cleanup, but really no problem at all. No fit issues showing through, nothing that I've needed to go back and take care of or anything else like that. So we've taken the tyres off of all the hubs and everything so we can do those separate. So we've primed all those up as well. Right, okay, the plan. Now, I've had these off the net. So this is what we're going with. It's basically the two-tone colours. So it's just one of those things. I've left it over there. What colours to go for? Obviously, you know, this is a work of fiction. You could go with anything you like. I'm going to start off with, though, a couple of Tamiya-based colours, and we're going to work from there. So what I'm going to use is the Desert Yellow. It's just got that sort of pink hue to it, which I think works quite well rather than the lighter colours, because obviously we're going to lighten this for fading work and stuff like that, so I think it's going to lend itself particularly well to that. And then just straightforward, we're going to go with the NATO brown, which I think it was that type of colour anyway. It looks extremely close to it. Again, because it's a little bit darker than we want, we can easily lighten it up, fade it, things like that as we go around, because this one, because it's got so many facets on it, it's in angles and things like that, it's going to lend itself particularly well to dry brushing. So dry brushing, what we can actually do is cut this with grey and then dry brush the entire thing to really liven it all up. Then we can come in with washes. We're going to use oil washes, clay washes, things like that, just to really give it some depth and some tones and everything else. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward how we're actually going to do this one. So the salmon colour, we're going to call it sand colour, all right the way over it to start with, absolutely everywhere. Then we can mask off and we can go in with the darker colour. You don't really want to do it the other way around, otherwise it's going to act like pre-shading. I did think about pre-shading it, but again, the idea of pre-shading is to break up large flat areas to stop them looking like a brick, and it naturally weathers them in. This doesn't have that. It's lots of small little areas, so I don't think pre-shading is going to particularly work well on this one. So what we're going to do is our usual way of all these things. We'll just clear a little bit of space. Just down here, we've got a sheet that I've knocked up just for spraying down on. Okay, and we've got this guy down here. So it's just going to be a case of really like we did the primer work, putting this one down. We're going to do this straightforward 50-50 mix as we've done all the painting in the past when you're using sort of Tamiya paints. All right, this is a brand new bottle, so it is a little bit thicker probably at the bottom. So this is X20A in here, which is Tamiya thinners, okay, acrylic thinners. So we're just going to bung in a standard 50-50 mix down into this. You could come in with a thicker one for greater coverage if you wanted to. So, you know, at this point you could turn around quite easily and just chuck in a, you know, almost a neat paint like you would do with a primer, but a 50-50 because you don't need to do any weathering or anything else. This is just to chuck down another good base coat just down here like this. So one of those things, making sure you go absolutely everywhere. And when we say that, we mean it with this one, because there's so many gaps and hollows and things like down there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just do a small area, then I'm going to come off, and obviously I'm going to grab this into the spray booth and spray it. So just going to put it down. And it's one of those things, when you look at the end cap and then you look at it when it's on, it's totally different, all right? So we're just going to put this one down. Come around and try and get in all those areas, but a little bit like when you're priming it, just avoiding over flooding the area and anything else like that as you're working it all the way around. So what you want to do an area, go off, do somewhere else, come back, and then you can actually get in there and overcoat it without the risk of actually getting in, you know, too much paint ending up with runs and all those things like it. Okay. But you just want a nice even finish right the way over this once you work your way around. Right, because it's quite a big job, I'm going to fog up quite quickly. I'm just going to take this over to the spray booth and finish it in there. Okay, so there we go, looking pretty much the part. Okay, maybe a little bit dark, but I'm not too worried about that because obviously we're going to bleach and light up. You could go straight in if you wanted something like a XF60, which is a lighter version of this one. Personally for us though, what we're going to do is we're just going to lighten it with a little bit of grey to give us a sort of a shaded effect. So we're just going to need the X20A again. Now, usual thing, we've covered this before, but when you're going to be post shading like this, or sort of doing the tonal changes, technically I just make up a 50-50 mix of the original, okay, and then all we're going to do a 50-50 as you would, just like so. Okay. And then all we're going to do is get that off, clean that down. So take our grey. Then all we're going to do is add probably 2 brushfuls to start with. In fact, this is a little bit thinner because I've pre-thinned this one already, so I'm going to give it 4 because technically that would be the equivalent of a normal flow. And we're going to give it a mix. Okay. Doesn't look too bad. You can see that new colour coming through, and then all we're going to do is whip around some areas, alright? So we're going to be keeping it very light, very random, so just going to do anywhere that's flat. Okay, so we're just going to come in here, got a flat panel there, up to a flat panel here, flat panel type there, and as you can see it looks very strong on here, but as it dries down it will darken. It's just because it's wet, and obviously this is quite a wet sort of look to it, but that's the type of thing we're going to do. So any facets or any angles that are flat, we're just going to come in and put in a line. Okay, and you don't have to be an exact science on this one. This is literally just to try and break it all up just a little bit. Alright. Then the idea is you're sort of leaving behind the shadow areas which are going to be a little bit sort of darker as you go round, okay, and hopefully you can see this is sort of changing. Alright, so we're just going to pop in, and don't be frightened to go over them more than once. You can all go over them a couple of times, and what we're going to do, it's going to be one of these things of like rinse and repeat. So we're just going to pop round everywhere the first time. Okay, just round like that. And we just do these areas down the back. Okay, no problem with that, looking pretty good. So we're just going to pop him off to one side, and hopefully you can see it just sort of breaks it up just a little bit. Then we're just going to come in with this guy. Just do those angles. Okay. Here's that thing, because all we're going to do is going to come in, because this is very thin, just going to give it a good dollop of the grey in there. And as you can notice, when you're adding with grey, it just takes, it's almost a weathered tone. If you're going to come in here with a white, it would lighten this up and it would be like sand now. Because we're in with a grey, we've got this sort of off colour now. So if we run it down here, you should see the difference. So sandy colour, and there's our new colour, this new one down the back, which is totally different to what we've got here. So what we're going to do with this one, exactly the same. Okay. And hopefully you can see it sort of weathers down and takes it all down together. Okay. Okay, so it all just sort of weathers down. So we're just going to do a little bit around these front areas. Okay, and then traditional fashion, all we're going to do is literally just going to overcoat the entire thing with this colour. So it just gets a light blow over absolutely everywhere with this new colour. The idea of doing this is just sort of blends it all together, all right? And it'll just fill in any areas. So as you can see now, it's totally different colour, but you've still got the undercolour coming through. Okay, just a little bit, just down in those insides, and on these. Okay, and that's it. Simple, no problem with that at all. All right, so what we're going to do, let that dry for around about 20 minutes. When it's completely dry, we can then start to do our mask up work to literally start to mask it up, make it with this darker colour on. And what happens is this will change a lot. So at the moment, as you see, it's quite a sort of nice darker colour here. When this new one goes over it, it will make that sort of appear a lot more yellow. Okay, so at Spray Bay, looking pretty good, I must admit. One of the things you can see is how we've done the weathering, because before it's looking really, really dark to me, and now it's sort of come back, but hopefully it's got that sort of multi-tonal look to it, which I think will work really well when we come to do things like, as I say, certainly washes. When it darkens it, it will make the panel areas, these bigger areas, look lighter. But I don't know how well the camera picks it up, but you see at different angles, it looks like it's different colours, which is what we're after. That was our base colour, okay, and this is after we'd finished weathering it to sort of bring it back and all things like that. So I must admit, I'm quite happy the way this has turned out. I'm just going to make sure these are the same colour. Okay, so let's just hoof them in, if we can get them in. There we go. So they're in, they're the right colour, that's the good thing. So, okay, next up, we can do all the stripy bits. Now, stripy bits, which is all of this lot, okay, a little bit of artistic license. There's no way we're going to be able to match that exactly, so I'm going to do it our interpretation of it. The reason that we've done it this way is because if you've done the darker colour first, then masked off, you can have the shadow areas around it. Wouldn't have looked very good. So what we're going to elect to do is literally just jump in and try and do these the best we can. So in some ways it might be handy just to pop these together so it all lines up. Otherwise you could be in the situation where the panel doesn't really meet. And when we put this in and glue it in for the final time, obviously it does need to halfway be there, all right? So unfortunately, it is one of those jobs which is just going to be a case of getting on with it. So I'm just looking how this is now, and obviously we can see it down on this guy. You know, you can say, right, okay, you can make them as straightforward or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to halfway tape this all in together. So I'm just going to pull this over. Okay, and we're going to have something like a line like that. Okay, and then to off the angles and change angles slightly, just overlap the tape. Okay, so now you've got your bend in there. Then working the other way, obviously it's a little bit more tricky because you've got to come inwards up on yourself, and you can need to cut it as you go on and go through. But certainly from our point of view of doing something like this, and on this front edge, you know, it's quite straightforward. So what we'll do is we can say, right, okay, we're going to come down to here. You can then place your nail in it, twist it, okay, and you can actually bend them round to be various angles and various bits. Tape's gone through and in. Let's get that out. There we go. So get rid of that bit. Okay, and then sort of down here you can change that angle again, and you can just literally keep manoeuvring it around and placing it in all these areas. So obviously this is our sand colour off the inside. Okay, so I'm just going to change it slightly around. So this guy's going to come round, so you can then use your knife and you can start making little tapes in at different angles, and then that way you can just sort of work them in a little bit. So you can say, right, okay, this guy's going to come down to sort of quite a thin angle to here. Then it's just a case of lifting up your tapes and working them around and where they're going to go and all things like that. So this guy is going to be quite a short one actually. Okay, but as I say, there's no easy or quick way to this. This is just literally one of those ones where it's like, right, okay, here we go. We're just going to start to work our way around and push it all the way around. But you get the idea. We're just going to come around and ideally work your way over the entire model. So obviously up here it's going to be quite straightforward coming across the top, but what you're going to need to do is undermask underneath these plates as well, because for instance these ones on the front, you've got areas where it steps up, no problem at all, but you don't necessarily want to get overspray and get it tucked underneath. So what it might be worth doing is doing it actually in segments where you can come along, you can mask up underneath a particular segment like this, spray that top one, okay, and then literally it'll be a case of peeling this off. Then when this top area is sprayed up, remasking that, then doing the lower one, and working your way down in different segments and steps. Some of it as well, like this little break here, you can see it doesn't have any more on the inside or in here. So again, doing each segment in turn might work out a little bit of a quicker way than messing around, and that way you can make yourself up a mask area, mask off the little bit, instead of having to do the entire thing, having tape everywhere. You can reuse your tape and all your bits and pieces like that. So I'm going to mask up my first couple of areas. You can watch me then spray it, okay, then I'll work through until we've got it all done, but it's a long old job to do this. Okay, so that bit done. Is that dry? That's dry. Okay, so it's not a straightforward, it's definitely not a science. Okay, so we've actually put in these few curves just down in here and this one up here just to show it all interlaps and interweaves. The easiest way is, I've done a bigger bit, to be honest, than I was intending to do. I was going to just do the front bit, but it sort of follow that line along. We've got vertical ones that come down. So really what we've done, this front section, this bit down here, and then it comes up along here. We've got to add this bit in here, this one down here, and these bits, but they can be done afterwards as smaller areas. So literally all we've got here is this stuff. So this is that NATO brown, which is that nice weirdo chocolatey colour, okay, XF68. We're spraying it neat. The reason we're spraying it neat is we know we don't get any bleed through underneath the Tamiya tape. It keeps it a lot more localised. So checking the colours coming through, and then final push down on everything to make sure you're all in, and then literally away we go. Okay, so you're sort of keeping it upwards at that sort of 90 degrees to the tape, so obviously you don't get anything going under or over and all the rest of it. Okay, and then literally, I'll just do that front section. And your other thing as well, if you're worried about overspray, as in obviously it's shooting off in other areas and things like that, then what you want to do is sort of slightly angle it away. So if you know what I mean, like we didn't want to get any overspray over the top here, so when I'm shooting across it, so it's all going over. Don't come in this area down onto it, otherwise you're going to get overspray in the various sections. So then once you're done, and it does seem a bit of a waste of tape, but you can obviously pop round and reuse a lot of this for filling in the jobs and the various bits. But what will happen, hopefully, is, apart from there, which I've just nicked a bit off. Normally wait till this is totally dry. Okay. Up here. These sections off. Alright, and that's our first little lines of it going through, and we can look at it and say, right, okay, we need to adjust, we need to do this to it, we need to do that to it, and obviously you can fix all those little problems. But for the moment, it's a pretty good start. I'm very happy with the colour, the way it is, because obviously it's going to weather down, we're going to lighten it and all those things by bleaching it out through an entire wash right the way over. Alright, but there we go, that's about it. So now I'm going to carry on and just do the rest of it, which is going to be a long old drawn out job and all the rest of it, but it's quite fun. So once we're done, got it painted, we can seal that down, and then we can start to move on with the next one of weathering it down, fading it down, and all those areas. Okay, so as you can see, really pushed on with this one. It's pretty tricky to get around all these veins and the various bits, as you can see up the top here, to get them in. There is no right or reason, there's no patterns or anything else like that. It literally is just a straightforward sort of splinter design. I've kept it as faithful as I can to the actual the drawings. There's a few noticeable differences. Basically on the drawings, the way it shows it going down and the angles doesn't marry up. So I think that may be a concept drawing versus the model might be slightly off, whichever way. But we've kept it as sort of as true to form as we possibly can, right the way as we went down through it out it all. I haven't done too much around the back end. We're going to weather it up, going to do some various metal effects and various things like that down there. Little bits of overspray. We've got a little bit just up here. You can see here there's a couple of little ones down in here. Again, it's a tricky to get in there to mask up behind. I was in there with bits of paper, tissue, everything trying to stick it down there right the way through to this area on the back. To be honest, I did it by hand painted, and this guy down here, this area down here is all hand painted, and same again on here, purely because it just takes so long to get in there. The other thing you might notice, down here on the front, it's all nice and black. Literally, we've just got in there with gloss black paint, and we've just blacked out the areas. Capillary action, put the paint in, a little bit thinned, dropped it in there on its side and let it go off all around those areas. I'm going to show you how to do it on these other parts, but for the moment we needed to get those in because we needed to get the wheels in and on. Now, speaking of wheels in and on, to be honest, I had a bit of a problem. I've tried to do the thing we were talking about expanding and shrinking, and in testing, because we've done these ones already, I took it over, we got the kettle, boiled the water, put these tyres into it, let them warm up nicely. They got all very sort of loose and floppy, fitted a dream, put them in the cold water then to get them to shrink back and everything in. Nothing really happens. I don't know what this rubber is, but it's not your traditional type that, you know, you usually can manipulate a little bit around just to get it to pull in a little bit more. Certainly getting it on, heating it up makes it a bit easier. To be honest, nothing really works. As you can see, we primed these up, and now we've just done them in a flat black as is, and then to get these guys in, I just go in slightly on a diagonal like this, and then pull it around, and in they go without scratching up this side. It's a bit of a handful, but as you can see, we've got a big gap round here. This is the one had exactly the same. As you can see, you've got the same size gap, so unfortunately it's just one of those things. The tyre is too big, I think, naturally for the actual rim itself, and that is the trouble. No matter a way of shrinking it and doing all the usual things that's going to make any difference. So unfortunately it is just a case of getting this in now and putting it in. As I said, you've got these little lips. I find if you hook them in and you sort of come in on the diagonal, okay, once you get in there a bit, you can actually flip it round and you can get it in and around. As you can see, you've got a bit on there, but the better side is the inner side, if you like. But again, this tyre, it's just too big for the rim. There's no way around it. Easiest way to put this one together once we're rim, we used a little bit of this. This is our thicker, your normal type of glue, because we don't want a thin glue in there because it's not going to do too much. And then we just put a good dollop on each of the pins. Okay, and then once they're in, what you can actually do, you've got the two to marry up there, just like so. And once you're in, you should, hopefully will click in. There we go. Bit of a click just to get them to push in there and everything else. And then we want those to totally go off, because to be honest, we're going to have to get a hammer out and hammer this in, because this pit here is so tight that it doesn't allow. This side is already glued in, so we've actually glued the hub into this outer one, and as you can see, it'll free wheel on the hub itself, which is quite interesting because, you know, there's that much of a gap in there. Now, the point of doing this bit area black first is so we could fit this guy in and put these in. I was going to glue them in place now, but what I might do is just leave them off, but it will give you an idea of how it's going to look and everything else. In fact, it's just this thing about this tyre, do we want to leave it as is, you know, and that is the trouble with them. I have already sanded them down just to wear them up, so all you do is take a sanding sponge, you want an old dirty one, okay, and just rubbing it right the way around it, both sides. Not so much worried about the inside, but definitely the outer side, because it's old and it's got dirt on it and everything else. Hopefully that's going to help grind things up. We're probably going to come in here with some serious weathering anyway, just to make this all look a bit bad. Alright, so once you've got it in there like that, what you can do, just give it a rub on your jeans or on your trousers, all the way around to get the most off, and hopefully you can see it just takes a little bit of the edge off, and then it's just a case of getting this in without breaking it. Okay, so we can get this one on, get it into that hub, get those to flick over, and again the front ones aren't too bad, and because we've worn those in now, it's just in there, but these guys down here now will need a little bit of taking off. But the idea of painting it all, you can see we've got the hub the right colour now, whereas before we didn't, but they are definitely black on that side, so that's how we got it. But it is this thing now, I did this area black because there's no way we'd be able to get in there to paint it when it's all together like this, you see, and that's the trouble. So the idea of doing those area black, whereas if we were going to stick this in and lock this in place like so, we'd have no problem about getting in there. And then obviously if we want to play a little bit of fun, we can just get this area in, so we've got the rears in there as well, give you a little bit of the idea of how it's going to look. But we need to dull these down a bit, thinking flat coat, thinking everything else like that. So there we go, that's it basically painted and together. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give it just a general satin or a gloss coat even right the way over, just to protect the paintwork, just to lock it down, because we're going to come in next. We're going to do some heavy duty dry brushing, some heavy duty washes, some heavy duty oils. We're even going to use a little bit of pigments in there, and perhaps even some post shading just to dirty it all up and try and make it a little bit more sort of realistic looking. But definitely we're getting there. I'm happy the way the camos come out and everything else. It doesn't really pop until we get those windows blacked out, but because we're going to be putting on a satin coat in a moment and everything else, there's not a lot of point of doing that. These are quite easy. We can put a bit of gloss on the top there and get them to shine up, but these guys here, it'll be a bit more tricky. So what I'm going to do, get it completely done, then we can do the windows, and then we can get on with some serious weathering. Okay, so quick satin coat on. Purely with this one, it's just to protect everything, so we don't need to do the underside, so we can use the turntable-ish, although it doesn't turn too well. And we just give this a straightforward satin coat over the top. Nothing fancy, it's literally just to protect everything. So the extractor on. Okay, for your final coat, always give it a nice dusty one, because that'll just help the texture for everything to stick. So everything from your dry brushing through to your pigments, washes, everything will flow better with a slightly textured surface. So don't make it too wet and glossy. If you've got anything that's a bit glossy, just come away further distance and just blow a light dusty coat right the way over it, and that'll give it a little bit of bite, but just for when you come along with your other things.